From our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Millar begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, the recommendations from an explosive inquiry into child sexual abuse in our schools have been released. The report claims Tasmania's Education Department had a history of shielding alleged and known abusers for decades, described by its authors as deeply disturbing.
When Sam Leishman was just 12 years old, he was abused by his teacher. Decades later, he's still searching for answers.
How did it happen that he managed to retain his teaching certificate for so long when these matters have been known about?
Recommendations of an independent inquiry into the Education Department's response to child sexual abuse released today.
It's very disturbing, it's upsetting. It just confirms what we thought was the truth.
The report says during the 1970s through to the 1990s, the department's responses routinely involved deflecting or ignoring concerns and complaints, often disbelieving or blaming students and shielding alleged or known sexual abusers.
It's alarming to learn that there were reports sitting on people's desks that went unactioned.
It points to a Department of Education culture over decades which provided cover for sexual abusers.
The authors of the report say they've seen recent examples where students' concerns and complaints have been assumed to be untrue. Lawyer Sebastian Buscemi says he's heard similar stories.
It just feels like they're trying to make the problem go away without addressing what happened, why it happened, or finding any way to help going forward.
The Education Department Secretary says he apologises unreservedly to victims and survivors.
We have been open and upfront about the fact that we want to make improvements, which is why this report was commissioned by the government in the first place.
The report makes 21 recommendations in total, including the urgent need for a record of all sexual abuse concerns raised within the department. The Education Minister says each of the recommendations has already been accepted.
We want to make sure that we're taking proactively all the steps that we need to keep our young people safe, no matter what setting they're in.
More stories are likely to come to light as the Commission of Inquiry continues.
We have to keep pushing for change.
Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
And if this story has caused you concern, contact the Sexual Assault Support Service on 1800 697 877. The investigation into a deadly triple shooting in Devonport has taken another turn, with police uncovering the origin of the unregistered shotgun used by killer Paul Carey. A 30-year-old Burnie man and close associate of the shooter is currently assisting authorities with their inquiries. Detectives previously stated they don't believe additional charges will be laid in relation to the sale of the weapon. An inmate who allegedly escaped the minimum security section of Risdon Prison has pleaded not guilty in the Hobart Magistrates Court to escape, dangerous driving and aggravated assault. 35-year-old Michael Douglas Westbrook allegedly escaped Risdon, stole a car and led police on a wild chase on September 15. He was remanded in custody and will reappear next month. A 50-year-old constable from southern Tasmania has been charged with breaching a police family violence order on 3 occasions. Tasmania Police says the officer has been restricted to non-operational duties and is summoned to appear in the Hobart Magistrates Court on December 6th. A baby boy who died at the Royal Hobart Hospital in 2019 was not treated quickly enough, according to a coroner. The 6-week-old, who had a heart condition, was brought to emergency, vomiting and with a fever, but it took nearly an hour for him to be seen. The coroner found staff then mismanaged the boy's treatment because they didn't realise he was suffering life-threatening sepsis. The boy wasn't correctly diagnosed for almost 6 hours, by which time the coroner said it was too late to save him. 2 brothers mourning the loss of their father are calling on the state government to relax borders and allow them to attend his funeral. Sean and Fergus Preen have had entry applications knocked back 3 times, being told their Victorian local government area is too risky.
The chance to farewell their dad. That's all Fergus and Sean Preen are asking for.
I don't think anyone would dispute that when a family member passes, that family needs to be together.
Their father, Glenn Preen, died on October 29. Twice the brothers had applications denied to enter the state from Melbourne and farewell him.
Each day he'd just ask her mum, where are my boys? And he'd say, you know, all I want are my boys here.
Fully vaccinated and testing negative multiple times, they were told they couldn't come in because their local government area was deemed high risk.
It's irrelevant where we reside from, especially if we haven't been to any of those high-risk premises.
The funeral will be held on November 24. They're hoping by then they'll be allowed in, but they've already been knocked back.
We have made a number of difficult decisions throughout the entire period of time of COVID. We know that some of these difficult decisions do have a significant impact on the lives of people both in Tasmania and interstate.
When Tasmania reaches a full vaccination rate of 80%, which is expected to be this week, those from high-risk areas will be allowed to enter the state with 14 days quarantine. The Preen boys will be able to enter the state then, but will miss the funeral unless given permission to attend and farewell their dad.
Sean and myself, my brothers would say we'd count Dad among our best friends.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A new mental health clinic will open its doors in Launceston early next month. The Stride organisation will run the Head to Health Centre being established by Primary Health Tasmania.
There is a significant need for people to be able to attend one place, to be able to access the varied supports that they've required, from housing to finance to physical health, sexual health, drugs and alcohol support.
They offer a navigation service for people who may phone or come into the service, so how to find the services that you might need. They'll provide some services in-house.
$10.5 million of federal funding will see the site operate through to 2024. A wet spring is adding to fears for firefighters ahead of the bushfire season. Plentiful grass and a narrow window for fuel reduction burns are feeding the fire danger, along with complacency.
A wet warm-up to summer doesn't extinguish the peril. In fact, it can make it worse.
Not only do we have great growing conditions, but it also, because we've had so much rain, it's impacted on our ability to do pre-burns.
Critically, these burns are behind schedule, hampered by heavy rain in the lead up to summer.
We'll have a lot of fine available fuel, and we may not have burnt or had a chance to clear as much as we would have liked.
The hidden threat is complacency. Even though more rain is expected throughout summer, it'll be mixed with above average temperatures.
Once you start to get into midsummer and some really hot days start coming through, things can dry out and turn around quite quickly.
The wet and warm weather is being caused by the brewing La Nina conditions. It isn't uncommon, happening every 3 to 5 years, but it has firefighters bracing for up to 10 uncontrolled blazes this season. Homeowners are encouraged to clean up their property before the worst hits.
If they can clear a 30-metre space around their house, that'll give the house clearance for when the fire's coming, but also gives room for our crews to get there and work and hopefully protect their assets as well.
Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
More than 180 Tasmanian businesses have signed an open letter to the Premier calling for more to be done to protect native forests. Logging is scheduled to begin around the Blue Derby mountain bike trail later this month, but tourism operators argue it will hurt their industry and Tasmania's brand.
We've got brands such as Patagonia, Paddy Palin, Blue Derby Pods Ride and the Tas Gravity Enduro mountain bike racing all coming on board to say that we need an end to native forest logging now.
We are a wild destination and people are going to want to travel and experience this into the future, and it's our duty really to protect that now for the industry but also for future generations.
The letter was tabled in Parliament today, but the state government maintains forestry and tourism can coexist. A 10-metre sperm whale stranded on a Flinders Island beach has died. Wildlife biologists had determined refloating the large mammal, which washed up late Sunday, was not a feasible or humane option. The 12-tonne carcass won't be removed from the sand due to its size. Swimmers are urged to avoid the water near the North East River as the dead whale may attract sharks. Tasmanian small businesses are bearing the brunt of insurance costs when dealing with Taswater contracts. That's according to an Upper House Select Committee report.
We believe that should be shared amongst the Capital Delivery Office and not put back onto small business.
The committee also found there is no effective appeals process for Taswater customers to resolve disputes. The final report will now be tabled in the Upper House. Parents are being reminded to keep a closer eye on their children around the water during the summer months. 7 Tasmanian children have drowned in the past 2 decades, the risk increasing once they learn to crawl.
Making a splash, mums and bubs learning to be safe around the water.
I'm pretty sure she will be so confident in the water in the future. I feel relief about that.
Oceania Aquatic Centre offers swimming lessons from an early age.
We run them from 3 months because the earlier you can get them into lessons, the better. We find that if you get the kids in too late, they become fearful of the water.
But sadly, not all children learn to swim, which can have fatal consequences. 7 Tasmanian children have died in waterways since 2002, and the risk of drowning triples as soon as a child learns to crawl.
They're scurrying around, crawling, often walking, and they can slip past. If the pool gate is open, they can easily open a gate, go to have a look at the water, just being curious, and find themselves actually falling in.
But the pandemic is preventing many kids from getting into the pool.
COVID has been one of the main ones there, where the children have missed out on their swimming lessons and then found it hard to get back in because the ratios in the swim schools are much less.
Royal Lifesaving's Keep Watch campaign is a reminder for parents to be extra vigilant with little ones around the water this summer. A simple message to enjoy swimming in a safe way. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
Tas Racing has chosen a site at Latrobe for its new harness and greyhound tracks. The multi-million-dollar investment will replace events at the Devonport Showgrounds after the site was sold to developers. Tas Racing plans to talk to residents about its new complex, slated for Palmers Road. 450 extra Tasmanian blood donors are needed over the next fortnight as demand surges to a 10-year high. A reopening of elective surgeries across the state has led to the blood supply pinch point. Red Cross has also noticed a concerning trend of no-show donation appointments. It's particularly calling on Tasmanians with a universal O-negative blood type to roll up their sleeves.
Every donation has the potential to save up to 3 lives. And remember that the life you could save might be a friend or a family member.
Anyone inspired to give blood can visit the Lifeblood website or call 13 14 95. Advocates say Tasmania has a long way to go if we want to banish the unwanted tag as one of Australia's worst recycling states. They say education and awareness is a key as the lid is lifted on the breathtaking items that shouldn't but do end up in yellow bins.
This Derwent Park facility is on the front line of Tasmania's war on waste. 90 tonnes of recyclable material is swept, crushed, packed and stacked every day.
Yeah, look, it's quite a big operation.
But it's the unwanted junk that arrives on the conveyor belts that jeopardises all the good work.
Such as plastic bags, dirty nappies and batteries.
Machinery, furniture, clothing, animal carcasses.
Statewide, around 13% of the material dumped in the yellow bin is contaminated and ends up in landfill.
People generally are putting the wrong things into the recycling bin, which cause issues.
Less than half of Tasmania's reusable waste is actually recycled, well below most of the country. Advocates are using National Recycling Week as a driver for education and awareness and say action is needed beyond the curbside, like Hobart business Beauty and the Bees.
We recycle everything that's physically possible to recycle within the building.
The only plastic you'll find is on the product lids. Almost everything else is sustainably sourced and sold.
We've saved at least 1.2 million packs from landfill.
Advocates also believe the proposed container refund scheme will do wonders for the environment because it will put a value on recycling each can or bottle.
So instead of just walking past a can and kicking it along the road, they're going to pick it up.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
As demand for its services grows, Cancer Council Tasmania is setting a high bar for next year's Relay for Life. An $800,000 target has been laid out at today's launch, with all money set to stay in the state. The need to provide more support to locals is driving the push.
We're transporting about 120 people every month to appointments around the state. When we talk about support services in general, last year we did about 6,000 to 7,000 occasions of support, so that's a huge number of people that we are assisting in many ways.
Among those ready to walk is Lily Nayland, who lost her auntie to leukaemia and a close family friend to breast cancer.
And I think that was a really
big experience for me to see just how much it affected her family, and has really encouraged me to do as much as I can for a cause like this.
Relays will be held in 5 locations across the state, from the Huon Valley to Circular Head.
World champion track cyclist Georgia Baker has signed with the Australian team Bike Exchange to race on the road for the next 2 years. The 27-year-old Tasmanian hopes the move will be the best preparation possible for the 2024 Olympics after a disappointing Tokyo Games.
From the top of the track to the World Tour, Olympian and world champion Georgia Baker is making the jump to the road, joining Team Bike Exchange.
I know a lot of the girls, and it's a great environment and something that I feel really comfortable going into.
The 27-year-old rode for the squad briefly in 2017 before heart problems disrupted her career. Signing a 2-year contract this time around, she hopes the spell on the road will hold her in good stead for the Paris Games in 2024.
I think just after seeing even the recent Olympics, a lot of the athletes that were really competitive and those who won gold medals were actually a lot of roadies.
She's currently quarantining in Adelaide, sweating up a storm in her hotel room and counting down the days until freedom. It's 3, she hopes.
I actually have a calendar where I'm crossing off the days, but then even then I forget if I've crossed off the right day.
The Australian Summer of Cycling awaits her, including the Women's Tour Down Under and Herald's Sun Tour. But first, a return to the Tassie Carnivals.
I think that's such an enjoyable part of riding my bike, is just coming home, just taking the pressure off a little bit and having a bit of fun.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The cricket world is mourning the loss of Tasmania's Keith Bradshaw after a long battle with illness. Born and bred in Hobart, Bradshaw played 25 first-class matches for Tasmania, including as captain. The accountant turned influential administrator became the first non-Englishman to be at the helm of the Marylebone Cricket Club, and for introducing Adelaide Oval's day-night test in his role leading the South Australian Cricket Association. Cricket Tasmanian chairman and friend of 40 years Andrew Gaggins says his vision will be his legacy.
Keith didn't say a lot, but when he spoke in a room of 20 or 30 people, you could hear a pin drop, because he mightn't say much, but when he spoke, you knew he was talking a lot of sense.
Keith Bradshaw was 58.
Good evening. Hobart, 18 degrees today. Launceston 19, Burnie and Devonport 17. 21 was the high today at Bushy Park. St Helens and Friendly Beaches reached 20. Grove 19 today. Myriad 17s around the state. Strawn, Low Head, Wynyard, Flinders and King Islands all on that number. Lyreweenie a top of 13. We did have a few showers creep over from the west, leaving the northeast fairly clear today as that cloud moved in. That cloud over us is linked to a low to our west as that spiral moves closer. Convective cloud is across northern, central and eastern parts of the mainland containing thunderstorms. Tomorrow another low develops to our east as the low to our west weakens. Low pressure troughs dominant over the mainland as well. The northwest winds will shift southwest to southerly over the south in the morning and later over the east and west. Swells to 3 metres in western waters. Hobart, tomorrow showers and in fact some sort of rain for Hobart for the next 7 days. 14 the top tomorrow, 15 for Geeston, showers for Bothwell, 13 the maximum. Launceston, showers, a top of 16, 16 also for Devonport, showers for Cressy, 15 the high. Burnie, 15 the top with showers easing, showers for Strawn, 15 and for Curry on King Island, 14 there. St Helens, showers and 15, 15 for Swansea, 15 for Orford. The UV sliding into the very high range at 8. On Thursday, fine over the north with showers elsewhere contracting southwards during the day. Showers on Friday extending to most parts during the day but less likely over the west. And on Saturday, more wet weather and snow to 900 metres in the southwest. Sunny in Perth, partly cloudy in Adelaide, rain easing from Melbourne. Showers forecast for Canberra, Sydney and increasing over Brisbane. Storms possible for Alice Springs and Darwin. Cloudy in Hobart, 14, 15 right now in Launceston and 14 in Devonport. Kim, you might have noticed a little bit slower tonight. I was having coffee today and a lady came up to me and said I was going too quick every night. She accused me of being a fast talker. Fast mover maybe, but fast talker? Really?
The only time I've known you to be fast, Murph, is to the bar. And that is your news for this evening. Thanks for your company tonight. Good night.